This is the Red Podcast.
This is episode number 48, part one of a two-part series on how to give a successful workshop. Many business owners give workshops in an effort to get new clients, but if you don't do it right, nobody will show up, or even worse, if they show up and you're not prepared, it can ruin your business. We'll make sure that neither of those things happen to you. That's coming up on this episode of the Red Podcast.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
I don't have many pet peeves, but one of my big pet peeves is when people talk on the cell phone at the gym. Does that bother you?
I can't stand it.
It bugs me so much. I was at the gym last night and I was walking around the track and there's this girl on her cell phone just yapping away and I'm moving faster than her, so I pass her every 10 minutes or so and it just bugs me. I don't know why people do that.
You know, the thing that bothers me about that, for one, when you're on a mobile phone, whether you're talking or whether you're texting especially, it takes you away from being present. And those people are always not watching where they're going. They're running into me. It's like I've got to work harder. They're in front of me at a stoplight. They don't pull away when it turns green quickly enough. Yeah, it drives me crazy.
It's just something about him at the gym. When I was there, I guess a couple months ago, there was this guy just standing. This was worse. He was standing in the middle of the track, just talking on his cell phone. He wasn't moving. He wasn't going anywhere. And I asked him to move because he was right in the middle of it. And he moved to the side. And then he came back and he stood right in the middle of the track.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the not being present. And there was actually a funny video. It was released probably a year ago. Was all over YouTube of a woman texting while walking, and then she fell in a fountain. Did you see that?
I think, didn't she sue somebody over that one?
Then she sued the mall because the people were watching her on like a surveillance video or something, and they were laughing. Which we would have laughed too. It's like the revenge that you have for having to deal with these idiots bumping into you.
Did you see that video on YouTube about the girl that, I think it was called I Left My Cell Phone at Home?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that one? I mean, that was just showed how powerful it is.
We'll link to that in the episode notes, redpodcast.com/48, because it really, I think it did a really great job of showing what happens when you're not being present. It's kind of like going out for all my friends that drink and then they stop drinking and they realize how boring everybody is. It's a whole new world.
I think we need Peggy Post to write an etiquette book on cell phone usage. I think that's the part that we're really missing here.
Miss Manners.
Miss Manners, that's what we're missing.
Gentle reader, hang up your phone.
Well, let's talk about RED. What is RED, David? Who's it for?
RED stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. This is for bloggers, writers, authors, podcasters, anybody with a message. If you've got a message to spread, we will help you do it. And the way we do that is by talking about long-term strategies for spreading your message. We're not about tricks. This isn't the optimization podcast where you're trying to maximize every minute of the day. We want you to do it slow and steady. And that's what we're talking about today, something that's a slow and steady way of finding new clients and spreading your message, and that is workshops.
Workshops are something that I found to be really effective as a coach. And you listed all those people, David, bloggers, speakers, authors. You didn't say coaches, but a lot of times those people are coaches and everything kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, I'm a business coach. I'm a blogger. I'm a podcaster.
Soon to be author.
Soon to be author. I'm a writer. So all those things really go hand in hand. But if you're someone who is a coach or you're a consultant and you're trying to get new clients, workshops can be a really great way to do that. But many business owners who are given these workshops or setting up speaking engagements in an effort to get new clients find that it's just a big big waste of time because honestly, they don't know how to do it correctly, or they think they do, but they're actually not doing it correctly. So we're going to talk about some of the tips and strategies that you can use to have an effective workshop that will get you loads of clients and help build your business.
We've talked about it here before, Laurel. You've had some, I've had some where nobody shows up. And that's another thing that we're going to talk about today is making sure people are actually there to hear your message once you set this thing up.
Yeah, because you can't get clients if you don't have anyone showing up to your workshop.
No.
What would you say the first thing is to do, David?
First thing is you've got to have a major problem that the people that you're talking to are having to deal with.
This is really a great first step because if you just make some generalized workshop with a topic that no one cares about, you're not going to get people there and you're not going to be able to get any clients from it. So I would look at hot topics for your target market. What are their big struggles? When I was a health coach, a couple of the big workshops that I did where I got 50 plus people to them were gluten. I talked about gluten because that is a hot topic. People that have celiac disease or gluten allergies, or should they give up gluten? Does that help weight loss? All those things. I did a weight loss one because that's a major issue for my target market at the time. And I did another one, sugar. That was a popular one as well because people in that target market were really dealing with sugar cravings and issues. So I looked at, okay, what are the major problems that my target market is dealing with? What's going to get them off their butt in the middle of the afternoon or evening and come to my workshop? And so those topics really honed in on what those people were dealing with.
You've got to have something that is going to get them to take action because these are live events that we're talking about, although I suppose that you could do something online where somebody could just click on Google Hangouts, let's say, and watch you. But from my experience, these events are a whole lot more effective when you do them live, you do them in person, where somebody can see you, touch you, feel you, taste you, smell you, hit all their senses, and that's where rapport is built, and that's where the sales come in.
And that's not to say that if you did an online webinar or something along those lines that it wouldn't be effective. I think everything we're talking about today, or most of it, is going to apply to doing that approach. But you're right, David. When you do it in person, there are just so many more ways for you to connect with your audience and with potential clients that you're just not able to do online. But you can still have success online if you follow some of these tips.
Sure, but the advantage of online is you have people that can connect with each other, and they can actually help your sales process. If one person is signing up, the person next to them is more likely to sign up. This is just another way for you to stand out. So I would encourage you, if you're thinking about doing a workshop, all of these things that we're talking about will work for an online workshop or any kind of online event, but doing it in person, that separates the men from the boys.
I would say that either way, you have to hit on a major problem that people are having for them to show up. I mean, they're not going to just show up to your webinar because it's a click away. I mean, it takes a lot of energy for people to go to their computer, maybe at 7 p.m. and log on to your webinar and listen to the whole thing. That takes a lot of effort. You don't think it does, but it really does. So either way, you're going to have to find that major problem that's going to hit people's hot button and get them to your webinar or to your live workshop.
So how do you find the major problem people are having?
I would say that if you don't know what that is, if you have some clients right now that you're already working with, you're probably going to know what their hot buttons are through working with them because you talk to them on a weekly or biweekly basis and you know what they're struggling with and you can see the common struggles that multiple clients have. Now, if you don't have that, if you're not talking to anybody in your target market, you have to get talking to them. You have to get on the phone with them or meet with them in person. So I say talk to a few people who are dealing with the problem that you're addressing. Or maybe if you don't know the problem yet, talk to them and see what their common issues are to figure out what the problem is.
And this can be done one-on-one, and once you set this up, they'll let you know. So you ask them, what do they need? What do they need help with? How can you help them? And what information would they like to know? They'll let you know.
Exactly. So again, you can either go to them and say, this is what I'm talking about. What would you need to know? Or if you don't have a topic idea, you don't have a major hot button yet, you can figure out what their major hot buttons are. And we gave a couple really good questions in the last episode, David, didn't we?
Yeah, a couple of episodes ago, That was episode number 46. It's at redpodcast.com/46 if you want to listen to that. We talked about connecting with an audience. We did an entire episode that really went deep on how you can connect with people, find out what they need to know. If you can give them what they need to know, that's going to make filling your workshop up that much easier. More or less, though, for the sake of this episode, you want to find out what they need help with, and the information that they need to know. So let's talk about creating the workshop. How long should your workshop be, Laurel? You've done a lot of these public workshops. As you mentioned, a lot of them, 50 or more people would show up. How long is the main presentation?
Mine were usually, the ones I've done are usually about 75 minutes. And I would say keep it between 45 and 75 minutes. If you need to go 90 minutes, go 90 minutes. But people just lose their attention span. And it's just hard for them to just sit there and listen to you for that time. So I found 75 minutes for me with a couple different things, segments, if you will, throughout that time was really a great sweet spot for me.
So you've got a big problem. Let's say, for example, how to lose 20 pounds. That's something a lot of people would like to know. You're creating the workshop. Talk a little bit more about how you would put something like that together.
I would say you got to have some major points in there. I would say about 3 to 5 points. You don't want to overwhelm your audience with information. I went to a workshop and it was with another health coach. I was a health coach at the time and I was helping out another health coach with her workshop. And her workshop was over 2 hours long and it hit on every little piece of information she could have talked about for this topic. And people were just lost and confused and didn't know what to implement and didn't even know where to get started. And that's what happens a lot of times is that when you're a coach or when you're passionate about spreading your message, you want to talk to your audience about everything because you are so excited and you're like, well, everything can help them. That's not what they need. What they need is 3 points, maybe 5 points to really hit it home and implement what they've heard from your workshop.
Right. Part of what you're doing as a coach, as somebody with a book or a product to sell, is you're trying to simplify what your audience is trying to do. And if you hit them, have you ever been to these events, Laurel, where they've got like 40 or 50 slides and they're just going for it? Every single thing they can cram into that conversation is right there. Don't do that. You're trying to simplify the process, make it as easy as possible on your audience. So I like that. 3 to 5 major points, and keep it short, 45, 75 minutes, because of course you need to work in a pitch at the end if this is a free event. And that's what we're talking about here, a free workshop that's going to help you sell your book, sell your product, sell your coaching services.
Don't think that 3 points is too few. A lot of people are nervous. Well, I'm only giving them a little bit of information, but this is totally new information to them. This might be the basic stuff 101 to you, and you want to build on the more advanced stuff, but you got to meet your audience where they are, and that's where the 3 to 5 main points comes in.
And you're going deep with this information. For example, a weight loss seminar, weight loss workshop, you're not just saying eat less food, drink more water, go to the gym. Those aren't your 3 points. You're showing them how they can do that as well.
A lot of people are afraid to give away too much information because no one will want to work with them. If you ever go to the grocery store, this is a great analogy, and they're giving away free cookies, they're not going to give you the worst cookie there and try to upsell you to a package of cookies. They're going to give you the very best cookie, and then they're going to upsell you to the package of cookies. So you want to give people the best information that you can in your workshop before you try to upsell them to your coaching. But keep in mind that you can tell them the why and tell them the what, but you don't have to tell them the how, and that can be your upsell later on.
So give a big picture, not the very specifics that it's going to take to actually do that big picture. Laurel, when I met you, one of the things that you were in the middle of was promoting a big workshop, and you had a partnership with a very large sporting goods outdoor store. It's called REI. You're probably familiar with it. REIs are everywhere, and you had partnered with REI. You were doing a big event. Talk about teaming up with organizations like that. How does that work, and what are the benefits of doing something like that?
I definitely want to answer your question, but I want to say that was our first date, David. Is I had a flyer. That was my sugar workshop. I had a flyer for my sugar workshop, and I gave it to you at the very end of our first date, and I said, "Don't come to this."
And little did you know that I was analyzing the flyer for copy problems. I was like, oh, man.
I know, it probably wasn't very good back then. But
well, you were doing it. You were out there doing it. You were making it happen. Yeah, sure, I would have changed it because as a copy guy, as a consultant, I find the hole in the donut. That's my job. But what was really impressive is that, one, you actually booked this thing. You were out doing it. And this wasn't the first one that you had done. But also the fact that you had a huge partnership with this company, REI. A lot of people were trying to get in with those guys, and you had made it happen.
Yeah, this is a great piece of advice that I give to other coaches who are trying to do workshops is team up with somebody who has a built-in audience or who already has a list. And this can be really effective if you're doing it online because you can reach out to other bloggers and podcasters and people who have a list to promote your workshop. But if you're doing it in person, team up with people who already have a list, whether it's a church. I have done presentations at churches with a club, wellness centers. In my case, because I was doing nutrition talks, that was effective. Other local businesses, anybody who has a list that they can email their list, or you can team up with other people. So other business owners, referral partners. And I've done all of that. And that's really the most effective thing you can do because you have your list, but they might be tired of hearing that you have another workshop. Maybe they already came out to one. So you want to get new people in to see you, and teaming up with people around your city like REI can be a really helpful way to get fresh faces in there.
Agreed. I think teaming up with people who already have an event that you can add value to, or have a company such as REI, that's a perfect match if you're trying to tell somebody how to get their diet locked in. Well, that's going to help you use the stuff that they've got at REI. So there are all sorts of options for you to partner with people who have a built-in audience. You can bring people into their location, and of course they've already got people coming to their location that are going to be turned on to you. So it's great for everybody, and that's the reason they're so open to doing those things.
It's definitely a win-win for people, as you said. And what I did actually for that REI workshop, I teamed up with REI, so they promoted my workshop. I promoted my workshop. Also, I was teamed up with something in Nashville called Team Green that does wellness workshops. So they promoted it to their list. So it was three of us trying to get it out there. And it was free for people, but I filled the room on that one. So that was a really effective approach. But David, I want to ask you, because you've done a lot of workshops and speaking engagements as well. What would you say about selecting an appropriate venue? Because that's a part of this whole giving a workshop thing.
Yeah, I've done a lot of workshops, seminars. I've done entire multi-day conferences. And I think the biggest thing that you want to think about when it comes to where you're doing your event, one, you want to think about the venue itself. Is it going to be good for the audience? For example, a lot of events are in bars, they're in restaurants, it's noisy, there's somebody trying to get you to pay the bill, people are eating, there's other people there, not your audience, that don't care about you. That's not really a great place when you're trying to get somebody to focus on you and what you're saying. So I would say have a quiet place where people can focus on you. But I would also say have a place that's easy to get to, preferably one that people are already aware of, and make sure it has parking. People feel safe there. People feel comfortable. Those two things are what's going to make your event a whole lot easier to fill. If you've got something that's kind of out of the way or in a place that people don't feel safe, well, they're not as likely to come, and you've already got enough resistance from people and enough other things going on in their lives that are going to keep them from coming to see you, that any of those things that you can knock out, that's going to be a better chance for you to fill the venue.
And also thinking about parking and other issues like that.
Yeah, parking is huge. I think nothing of grabbing a cab or paying for parking, but a lot of people do. A lot of people never pay for parking, even if it's just a couple of bucks. So if you can find a place with a big lot where it's easy to find parking, not just street parking, that's going to help you fill that.
Well, let's quickly talk about marketing your workshop and just a quick couple things that you can do to get the word out about what you're doing, aside from just emailing your list, because we're just going to assume that you're going to let your list know that you're giving this workshop. So I'm just going to run through them real quick, David. First is hang up flyers. I said on our first date, I had a flyer for my workshop. Yes, this takes a lot of effort. I went and hung them in the coffee shops in the area, but it actually worked. I got a lot of people that learned about the workshop from the flyers.
And I want to say this, though, but that's not just a random coffee shop. Those were places in the area that were catering to the people you were trying to get to. Don't just hang them up randomly. You want to go where your audience is going to hang out.
Exactly. It was effective for me, so I did it. So I put in the work. Second, something that might be a little easier for you is to promote on social media. You want to do something probably a little more targeted than sending out a general invitation to lots of people, a bulk invitation. That's boring. We've all seen that. Nobody pays attention to that stuff anymore. So you might want to invite people personally on social media.
Yeah, it needs to be personal. It needs to be in your area, because a workshop going on in Nashville, if your social media audience is all over the world or on the other side of the country even, they're not going to pay attention to you after a while. So make sure that you do only the people that are in your area and could actually come to something.
And then tell the people that you know, tell your friends, tell your fans, tell everybody.
Yeah, that's a huge one, because people will bring friends with them. And that, from what I've found, is the best way to fill your event. Tell people to bring 1 or 2 friends. Right there, you've doubled or tripled the people that are coming.
And something that I did was I had people sign up for my workshops and said, if you sign up by this specific date, you're entered to win a $25 REI gift card or something like that. That encourages people to, 1, sign up, 2, tell their friends, and 3, actually make it out there. So that's effective. And also announcing in local newspapers or online newspapers or publications can be really effective in getting the word out to a new audience.
Laurel, I think we need to explain about presenting your workshop. On the next episode of Red Podcast, we're going to do just that. That will be episode number 49, which will be available at redpodcast.com/49. For now, if you have questions about how to give a successful workshop, we are happy to answer them. You can visit us online at redpodcast.com. You can come to me directly. You can come to Laurel directly. Both of us have a lot of experience when it comes to workshops, seminars, and conferences. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We're trying to build a community here. So we would also appreciate you, just like somebody would tell a friend about your workshop. If you will tell a friend about Red Podcast, that will help us to grow the Real Entrepreneur Development community. Another thing you can do, go to iTunes and leave us a review. That helps us pop up in the search engine just a little bit better when somebody's on iTunes, and that will help get the word out as well. Thank you so much for listening. We'll have round 2 of how to present a successful workshop on episode 49, which will be available at redpodcast.com/49. See you soon.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.